there's the obvious one, what do you want me to do when you die? I don't know how to even begin to address that conversation. It's like there's no happy way of saying, hi, yeah, you're gonna die. What do you want to do? Because at 44 and 37, having a will is not something on our top 5 things to do, right? It's, do we have enough money in our account to pay the bills? Or, how are we going to pay your student loans now? Or how are we going to send the kids to college? Those are the top 3. Not, do we have a lawyer on retainer? And do you have a will? Do you want to be buried or cremated? And what song do you want to be your anthem at your funeral? That is not what I had what I had thought. I had thought that, I just graduated from college. It took me 7 years to get through college with 2 little ones. I had just graduated from college. We were, our relationship was difficult, and we were getting, things back together and working through things, and now we're going to have to work through all of those things a little faster, right? And you finally get your marriage to where you want it to be, and then man dies? What? It's like some sort of joke.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the author podcast, where we get to talk to amazing authors who bring great works to the world. And today Courtney's here with us, and not only has Courtney written a book, but she's written a book about a really very personal story that can really help you. And Courtney is here as a single mother, and we're going to get into a little bit more about kind of her path to writing her book, and I'm excited to have her here on the show. Courtney, welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Well, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Tell everybody, Courtney, where you are in this big, gorgeous world of ours.
I'm in a place called Jordan, Minnesota.
Wow. That's nice. Sounds like a great place. How big is Jordan? Huge?
You sneeze, you drive through it.
Okay. All right. There you go. Have you been there all your life or what?
No, my husband and I located here about 10 years ago.
Okay.
He built me a house for my 10th wedding anniversary. That's how we got out here.
Well, there's a gift.
It is, yes. And now it's huge.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit, Courtney, about your story, because we had a time to get together and do a pre-chat before recording today, and listening to you and listening to your story, I know there are people pressing play on this episode today that are going to find comfort and resources through your book, but also an ally that they can reach out to and have conversation with. And I'm really excited about what you've written for us. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to this part as an author. Tell us a little bit about the story.
A lot of people ask me that question here lately. How did you become an author? What made you want to become an author? Why did you write the book? I've heard that question a lot. And I'd like to have this really cool, story about how I became an author, this impeccable thing. But unfortunately, I became an author because I lost my husband to pancreatic cancer. So it's not the most glamorous way to become an author, but I felt like what I went through and what my children went through, and more importantly, what my husband went through, I couldn't just keep that to myself. And no, I'm not an author. My mother will probably attest. She graded all of my grammar papers. That grammar was not my biggest thing. Writing was definitely not my biggest thing. Yeah, I just decided, what the heck? Let's give it a shot.
Were there voices in your community and your family kind of leading you in this direction to write this?
Actually, the biggest critics are my daughters. Yes.
Really?
Okay. I've asked them about what do they think about Mom being an author, and they're like, are you done yet? Is it over?
Well, there
So
you go. That just kind of
oh, that is
counterbalances.
true.
That's
It
nice.
keeps me at, it keeps me checked, keeps my reality groveled somewhere, right? Baseline.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, not really a whole lot of encouragement, not a whole lot of anything. It's just, I really felt an internal voice inside saying that you need to put this on a piece of paper. So I did.
So, what kind of resources did you have during the writing process to keep you on task to teach you how to do
Grammarly.
all this?
Lots of
Wow.
Grammarly,
Okay.
lots of spell check, lots of proofreading and editing. And I sent my book off to have somebody look at it and edit it. And when you get it back and you've used all of these writing tools and stuff to be able to write like prestigious, and somebody looks at you, looks at your work and they redline it, it looks like they bled out all over all over your paper that you've spent
No.
4 years putting together. But then you know why each one of those marks are there and it makes the book better. So it's a process.
In the process of writing your book, does that make you better as you kind of get this
Absolutely.
feedback? Yeah.
Editing is I would say, the hardest part. Well, not in marketing, but editing is the hardest part. It's having the ability to be vulnerable with somebody else, because this very much becomes your baby. It becomes, you
Right.
put everything into it and you want it just perfect. And when you hand that work off to somebody else to say, hey, go through this with a fine tooth comb, and they do, and they hand it back to you, and it looks like they stabbed it to death. It does make you a better author. It really does. It's a growing process, and that's part of it.
So, if you were listening to a podcast about writing before you had started the project, would there have been anything in a conversation that would have been beneficial to you in the early days of writing this book that, had you heard that, it might have given either comfort in the process of writing or give you
Don't
direction
do too
maybe for
much
your book?
research. Over
Okay.
researching sometimes, they say that there's my grandma used to have a saying, and she always told it to me, and it was around biscuits, but hey, the point still matters here. Too much of anything is a bad thing. Now, she was referring to me and continuing to eat biscuits at the dining room table. However, too much of anything in regards to research is also a bad thing. I spent all my time researching the perfect way to do this, the perfect writing tools and the perfect grammar tools and the perfect this and the perfect that. And I spent more time trying to find the perfect way of, doing this or that I forgot the biggest part was just to put the words on a piece of paper. It's kind of like, not trying to give a Nike slogan here, but just do it, right? Just do it. Put the words on a piece of paper. You'll get to editing, but just put the words on the paper. That's it. That's all you have to do.
Had it not been for the changes in your family and with your husband and his journey, would you think you would
No,
ever have been an author otherwise?
no, I
No?
don't think I
Okay.
would have.
What part of
Oh,
that? Why
because
would you
when I was
say
a
that?
kid, I was homeschooled, so my mother was my teacher through high
Right.
school. So I was homeschooled in high school, and I hated grammar. Like, I would rather go and have no Novocaine and have my tooth extracted than do grammar,
Yeah.
language, anything.
Yeah.
And my mom would attest that my favorite subject in school was history and science. I would love to go blow things up in the backyard and learn about building and construction and hands-on things and STEM and research and grammar, writing. Yeah, forget about it. Not even close.
No. But you did say that in the process of
I
writing,
have.
you've changed. So there's a bright side to the fact that you
Oh
went through the
yeah, this
process of
whole
writing.
thing
Then,
has changed
yeah.
me. The death of my spouse has changed me. This has changed me. I am definitely not the person I was 4 years ago. That is 100%. The caterpillar cocoon metaphor. That yeah, it's really a thing.
Let's talk about your husband.
I was a
How did the
flight
two of you
attendant,
meet?
so I'm originally from Kansas
Oh,
City, Missouri. So go Chiefs! Yeah.
there you go.
So I came up here because I was a flight attendant for Northwest Airlines, and their hub was in Minneapolis. And so I got a job here as a flight attendant. And I went out one day with my flight attendant buddies to see a movie in Eagan, Minnesota. And my husband was there. We kind of met on a blind date. And he kept pestering me for my phone number. Hi, can I have your phone number? Hi, can I have your phone number? And I'm sitting here thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be the chick on Dateline. This is going to be like a Dateline thing. This is so going to be Dateline. And my parents are going to, yeah,
So
exactly.
turn into a podcast.
Podcast on Dateline instead of this. So finally, one of my good friends from my flight attendant world, she leaned over and goes, either you give the man your number or I am, because I would like to watch the movie. So I gave him my number, and he ended up taking me out to eat afterwards, and we got together. That's, I guess, I knew I was going to end up with him.
Well, tell us more about him as a person. Like, if he was to walk into the room, how would the room respond to his presence as he comes through the door? Was he quiet? Was he funny?
No.
Was he loud? Tell us more about him.
I had a term for him, and it's in the book. It's called Mailbox friends. My husband makes mailbox friends, meaning the man can go to the mailbox on an average day and come back with 3 new friends that he has met, and they end up in my garage on a Friday evening. Like, my house on Friday evening was like the town hangout. Everybody came over. We had people from all over town would come over, and they would hang out in my garage. Anywhere he went, he was that guy that, he'd just give you the shirt off his back. And I found out when he passed away, when I went to places like the grocery store, and more people found out he was deceased. I had people from everywhere that I didn't even know would walk up to me and go, did you know your husband helped me with this? And it was a life-changing circumstance. Or did you realize your husband did this for me? Or do you realize your husband raised money for my kid when she had cancer? Or do you realize your husband did this? And I had no idea, because that's not it's not my spouse. My spouse was a very humble man, meaning he didn't want the accolades. He just wanted to do it because he knew it was the right thing to do. Right? So you go out of town, my husband would go over and clear your driveway if it was snowing. Or he'd mow your yard. Or, he was definitely the guy that helped the old lady kind of across the street. I mean, that was my spouse. But he was also the life of the party, too. So he would sing and he would dance and he would have a good time. He had a saying. He always said, positive things happen to positive people. And that's how he walked around.
Talk about him as a dad. What did
he was an amazing dad. He was an amazing dad. And I am not as patient as my husband. And my kids will attest to that. If they wanted somebody with patience, they went to my spouse. When my daughter, I have one of my children has anxiety issues, and he would sit with her during some anxiety issues and just talk her through it. He had a calm way of just being there for my kids. He never missed a doctor's appointment. He never missed a band concert. He never missed any of it. He was always there, and he was always in the front row, always. And he always told me anytime I needed him, he was always 20 minutes away. So I'd break down I remember my car broke down one year on the side of the road, and he was at work, and I called him, and I was frantic. I was trying to get somewhere, and I called him, and I was crying, and he goes, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Just don't worry about it. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Anytime any of us needed him, his response was either, here, hold my beer, I'll be there, I'm on my way, or I'll be there in 20 minutes. It was always what he said.
Yeah.
And he was always there.
When people are walking up to you at the grocery store or on the street telling you how much your husband meant to them and those stories, and you not knowing like the full vast array of stories and all the people he had touched, what does that do for you in those moments where the family has all gone back home. Everyone goes back to normal, whatever that is. All the friends and family are back into their regular routine, and you now are with your kids and trying to renegotiate life on your own with the kids. What does that mean to you to hear those comments come to you from random strangers that you really don't even know?
I don't know. There's a few emotions that go through. The first one is sometimes it's usually anger. The world lost somebody amazing. Young people are filling our prison systems right now, and somebody amazing is gone. So usually it's like a mix of anger or disappointment or sadness. Yeah. Because none of them surprised me. None of the stories surprised me. And I'm glad he was there to help. But sometimes it's a lot of sadness. Why did it have to be my spouse? Why couldn't it have been the millions of people that have hurt or harmed somebody that is currently occupying death row? Why couldn't it have been, one of them instead? Why did it have to be mine?
Your family's young, too. Like, that's the one thing I think that a lot of people, even like young parents with a young family, they don't see an end in the future, right? I'm in my 50s, so I'm realizing that I have more days behind me than I have ahead of me. That's just life. But when you're a young parent with a young family and everything's like all about the future and getting the house and getting the kids settled, and you're just starting, right? Everything's just starting to build.
We had done that. We had what they call just arrived. The day he got his cancer diagnosis, I graduated from college with my master's in psychology. Same day. Same day. I graduated with my master's. He found out the same day that he had cancer, terminal cancer. And at the time, my youngest was 10 and my oldest was 13. And my husband lived 100 days past that. And he was 44 years old.
What kind of conversations do you have over a 100-day period?
You'd like to say that you have all kinds of conversations. But there's the obvious one, what do you want me to do when you die? I don't know how to even begin to address that conversation. It's like there's no happy way of saying, hi, you're gonna die. What do you want to do? Because at 44 and 37, having a will is not something on our top 5 things to do, right? It's, do we have enough money in our account to pay the bills, or, how are we going to pay your student loans now, or how are we going to send the kids to college? Those are the top 3, not do we have a lawyer on retainer, and do you have a will? Do you want to be buried or cremated? And what song do you want to be your anthem at your funeral? That is not what I had imagined, what I had thought. I had thought that, I just graduated from college. It took me 7 years to get through college with 2 little ones. I just graduated from college. We were, our relationship was difficult, and we were getting, things back together and working through things. And now we're going to have to work through all of those things a little faster, right? And you finally get your marriage to where you want it to be, and then man dies. What? It's like some sort of joke. Yeah.
My father passed away from melanoma cancer when I was a young dad, young family. And I remember him and I going out for coffee and trying to spend time together. Him not really telling me exactly where he was in his diagnosis and his journey. He did keep a lot of things from us. He kind of tried to protect us from having to deal with that. He wanted us to be normal and have the kids and be grandpa and everything. But I remember him sitting at a coffee shop, and I can take you to the location and the seat where we both sat together. And he looked at me, the guy that was bulletproof for me, that growing up, he was my hero. Like, he couldn't do anything wrong. I just loved my dad. And when he looked at me and said he was afraid, it ripped a spot through me that I couldn't repair that, because I've never heard my dad be afraid of anything.
And that was the same for my spouse.
Right?
My spouse He was a big guy. I mean, and he was a big guy. He was like 100 and almost 200 pounds. He was tall, 6 foot. He was built like a linebacker. Like, and he looked at me the day that he walked into the cancer center and he goes, I'm walking into a death sentence. And you looked at his face and he looked like a 2-year-old boy with big, huge eyes that are welling up. And he's like, honey, I'm walking into a death sentence. And he knew it. He knew it.
So, Courtney, there's people listening to this, and maybe they're early with a diagnosis in their family. Maybe there's someone, their partner has just found out, and they're at the very beginning of this journey with their partner. What do you have for them to give them comfort that, no matter what the result is here from that diagnosis, like, how can we use these days together to solidify this relationship and be there for each other? Like, what did you need? What did he need? Can you give us any kind of insight on where you were mentally at the beginning of this stage?
Caregiver is the hardest thing. I think the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life was be a caregiver to my spouse. So recognizing that that's going to be hard, but you'll get through it. You'll get through it. If you're thinking it in your head, say it out loud. There are so many things, like, I remember vacuuming downstairs in the basement where he was, and I remember saying in my head, I hope he knows how much I love him. And he was sitting there watching TV, and I didn't say it. I just kept vacuuming. Now I wish I would have said it. There are so many things I wish I would have asked, like some stupid stuff like, how do you run the snowblower? In that stupid snowblower, yeah. I had to give it to my folks and get an electric one because the snowblower was the undoing of me. It was. And yeah, if it's in your head, say it out loud. Because you never know the time. Because my husband slipped into a coma. And so when he slipped into a coma, he then died. So basically here 1 second, gone the next. And that is still incredibly true. So I can't say it enough. If it's in your head, make it come out your mouth. Don't take anything for granted, because I'll be 40 years old this year. And most 40-year-olds are not thinking about the end of their life and what they want that to look like, right? Because we're 40. I think about that all the time. And what I want to make sure that if I'm here one day and gone the next, that my family knows. So I always make sure when I hang up the phone with my mother, I say, I love you. Or when I'm texting my dad, I make sure and say, hey, Dad, I'm just checking on you today. Are you all right? I love you. Because my parents aren't guaranteed to always be here, right? My kids are not always guaranteed to be here. The one thing that's 100% sure on this planet is none of us are getting out of here alive. So if that's the case, if you love somebody, say something. If you're waiting to do that next big thing, go do it. Write things down. Write them down. I found, so after my husband died, I found a few things. He left me some surprises. It was really kind of cool. And it brought me to my knees in tears. I found a letter from my husband. And it's more in the book, but I was having a really bad day, and I found a letter next to his chair, because he always sat in the same chair. And so the letter says this. It says, I don't believe for a second you are broken. I believe for whatever reason you stopped using your skills. I believe in you, and I know you can overcome this. I love you, and have a good day. I've held on to that letter for the last 4 years. During my kid's diagnosis with POTS, during some trials and tribulations as a single parent, arguing with the stupid snowblower outside in the garage, I've reread that letter countless times. So if you know you're not going to be here You want to send something that will last, put it on a piece of paper. Because I can't tell you how many times I reached for that letter.
How has the book helped you you talk about writing things down. You're an author. You wrote it down. How in the process of writing the book has it helped you kind of come to terms with where you were at right now and your story and the next chapter? That's kind of the name of my show, but your next chapter is really a different thing than you've ever planned, right?
I'm a psychologist by trade. So here in the state of Minnesota, when you experience a death like you experience, anybody that's died in your immediate family take kind of like a bereavement period, I guess, so to say, time off for my license. So during that time, I went to see my therapist, and she was struggling. Me and her were struggling with the process of this. And, she was struggling to connect with me. I was frustrated and angry and mad. And she goes, "Have you ever thought about writing?" So what are you talking about? And she's like, "Have you wrote him a letter?" And it just nonchalantly came up during the middle of one of our sessions about letter writing. Like, my husband is dead. Really? You're asking me to write a letter to a dead guy? He's never going to read it. And I was just ticked off at the world. "Don't knock it till you try it," she said. Okay, fine. I'll try it. So I sat down and I wrote my husband a letter. And that one letter turned into 365 days of letters. That 365 days of letters turned into my first book on letter writing. So I wrote a book before this. Didn't really go a whole lot of places. But the process of letter writing was so cathartic. It gave me a way or an outlet or something on processing this in a way that nothing else had. No other therapeutic modalities, nothing. And so then I wrote this book. And through the process of writing this particular book, it was the best thing I did. I got a sense of closure the way I don't think I could have any other way.
What's interesting is that your husband wrote you a letter.
He wrote me too.
And now you're writing a letter back to him.
And the book came out on what would have been my 17th wedding anniversary. That was not intended. It was not planned. It was not planned that way.
Really?
It just did. It just happened that way. And it ended up not launching that day, but the day before. And my mother came across another letter the day before the book was published. No doubt. I'm not joking with you. So the first letter came, was sitting by his chair, and I was planning his memorial service, and I was really just defeated. And the second letter showed up when I was defeated again, trying to figure out how I was going to get this book to print, and everything wasn't lining up and nothing was meshing. And my mom just randomly out of the blue texted me. She's like, "I was looking through stuff and I found this." It was a letter from my spouse. She's like, "I thought it was just in my pictures randomly, so I just found this and I thought you'd like it." And so she texted it to me, and I just broke down in tears. And every time I find a letter, it seems to fit the thing. And this one said, "You are great at what you do. Be a leader with your team and they will follow. Your inner circle supports you. Be proud and carry your head high. Love you, Jeremy." Yep.
The timing of these things, right?
Drop the mic. Mic drop. Yep. When my husband wants to get a hold of me, he usually does.
He does.
Yes.
Did Jeremy write you letters like early on in your marriage?
Early on in my marriage, yes.
Like little things
yes.
and notes?
He would write little notes, and he would put them places. Moreover, on our wedding anniversary, he would write little notes and things. Yeah. As we had, life happened, right? Those kinds of things stopped. But, yeah. It came back. So every single time he figures out a way to get a hold of me.
For a reader, then, for your book, like you're sharing a lot of personal stories, personal thoughts, mostly related to your story, but someone's going to read this through their lens and their situation and their family member and their spouse. They're going to put themselves into their context, your story into their context. For a reader, then, I always like to find out from the author, like, what is your love letter to a reader about these books and how they're going to connect? Like, what is your vision for them as a reader what are they going to get out of these books, and how are they going to be a source of comfort or instruction or guidance? Like, what's in it for us as a reader?
Well, the book is broken half. So the first half of the book is the story, basically, of what happened and how I got to this position. The second, or the middle insert, is a poem, which was the first letter that I wrote my spouse, was a poem. And that splits the two pieces in half. The second half is a way for others around to, A, help the widow. So those that want to help widows or know a widow in their world that they want to help, but they just don't know how. It's for them. The other portion of that is for the widow to go, for them to have somebody look at them and say, I see you. I see you. I understand what you're going through. Every weird body sensation that you're feeling, every pain that you don't know what is, or those inner thoughts where you think you're going absolutely clinically nuts and insane. Yeah, I see you. You're not. This is all part of this wonderful club that none of us wanted to join, that we're all now in. And another reason the book came to fruition is because most people don't know how to act around widows. And it's nobody's fault. It's just like, who sits down and says, hey, let me teach you how to help somebody whose spouse has died? I mean, nobody gets that education.
Right.
And most people that try to help, they don't understand how to help. Or most people that want to help, they don't know what to do. So they do nothing. When you become a widow, you figure out who your friends are real quick. Because most of them take off like a rat on a sinking ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I've accounted that to, it's awkward and uncomfortable, and nobody knows how to deal with the awkward and uncomfortable, and nobody knows how to deal with the emotions. And so everybody, it's like they just disappear. And then you're left going, okay, now what?
And this is the time where you need them the most. Right.
Or just, my husband had a way of saying, sometimes people open their mouth and stupid falls out. Nobody's intending for it to happen. It just does. Well, that's the correct thing here, right? So we open our mouth and things. I've heard so many things being a widow. I've heard, so when are you going to date again? Mind you, that was at my funeral, or my husband's funeral. Somebody asked me when I was going to date again. Yeah. Somebody's asked me, when are you taking your wedding ring off? Somebody's asked me, oh, you're young, you'll find love again. Somebody's told me, oh, he's in a better place now. Can't be that bad. I've heard it all. Some of them are very painful. A lot of them are salt to open wounds. And some people, I don't think they realize that words carry weight. They hurt.
Yeah.
And so then there's people that won't say anything at all because of that very circumstance when you need them to say something. I remember calling one of my closest friends, and I needed her just to come and sit with me. I was struggling and I needed her to sit with me, and she wouldn't. Well, I have to go to work. Well, I have to go over here. Or, well, I have to do this. Or, you know, my boyfriend needs me, or whatever. And all I needed was somebody to spend 30 minutes, come over, sit on the couch with me, and let me just cry. That's it. That's all I needed. Wouldn't do it. Or people go, what do you need? Well, I need somebody to sit with my emotions. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. See, the thing is I used to do construction. I know how to put a house together. I'm a mother. I know how to raise my kids. I've done a lot of this. I can do this on my own. The physical, I can do this. I can maintain a property. I can pay my bills. I can do that. That I already know how to do. I didn't need that. What I needed was somebody to sit with me and go, yeah, this sucks, kid. This sucks. I'm sorry. And that's the one thing nobody could do. So I wrote it in a book. And I did that for myself. So that's fine. If you won't do that for me, I'll figure out how to do it for myself. And not only am I going to figure out how to do that for myself, I'm going to figure out how to do it for every other dang widow here too. And that's what I did.
What's the response been to the book from people outside of your community, random strangers that came up to your husband?
Yeah. Well,
and they came up to you to talk about him. What are they saying to you now?
I haven't had that quite yet. I haven't had people pick me up off the street and go, yeah, I read your book. Nope, that hasn't happened yet. A few people on Facebook have read it and reached out. I'm part of a widows club on Facebook, and several of the ladies on there have reached back to me and said, oh my God, thank you. You put words to something that I don't think any of us could. So mostly the accolades have come from my ladies widows group. So far.
Well, my request for everyone listening to us right now is, we're going to get to this in a few moments, but to reach out to Courtney and to A, first buy the books, obviously, but B, to give that kind of feedback and response and give Courtney your thoughts on what you're reading from your perspective and how it's resonating with you in your situation. Because I think that's a bond that happens between a reader and an author, especially around a book like this that's so meaningful, as now we can trade stories and say, well, I lost my husband or my wife at this age, and this was my situation, is different than yours, but the words that you have written help me in my situation. So I'm encouraging everyone listening to, you heard Courtney mention, just reach out and let her know what this book means to you. So you can leave a review online. That's amazing, and we encourage that. But that way more people can see your words and understand why the book is so important. But when the author hears from a reader, I just think that's such a special bond. And I think sometimes as readers, we think, oh, Courtney's so busy. She's a big fancy pants author now, and she'll never respond to me. Like, if I send her a message, she'll probably be too busy for me. But I think in that moment, we minimize the impact of our support and our words and our feedback to an author like you, Courtney. And I think a lot of authors would love to hear from readers.
Absolutely. This is the whole point. This is the whole labor of love kind of a thing. It's the whole point, right? Because, these are just words on a page until somebody gives them meaning.
There are also letters stuck beside a chair by the TV and in random locations, posted around the house, right? They're all over the place, and they have no meaning until they're read.
That is true. And then sometimes reading them is what makes all the difference in the world.
And we don't know who's going to read these words and what context they're going to read these words. And we don't even know if they're going to read these words while we're around or when we're not here. So the beautiful thing about your husband leaving you notes is that he had no idea what the outcome of those notes would be. You have no idea what the outcome of your words will be in your books. You can't measure that, right?
It's true.
You don't know.
I didn't even tell you the best part. So my husband died Christmas, December 21st, 2021. The following year, I had some guys in my yard. I'm like, what the heck? It's springtime, right? So they're in the backyard measuring and stuff. So I peek my head out and I'm like, guys, can I help you? And they're like, and they look at me and they're like, hi, Mrs. Hennis. We're supposed to be doing this as a surprise. I'm like, well, you've already outed yourself. So what's up? It was several guys from the city where I live. They were measuring. because my husband had paid for, bought, and had made arrangements for the first Mother's Day that he was not here. The city where I live put a deck on the back of my house. And the dude from the city, the building inspector, had my Mother's Day card. He made sure that my Mother's Day didn't go quietly. And a good portion of the town was in on it. He had it drawn when I was going to work, because I had to work like 50 hours to pay for everything. So when I wasn't here, right, he would have people coming in and out of the house working on this deck for the backyard for when he wasn't here. Yeah, that was my husband.
Wow. I think the other thing that stands out to me in our conversation, Courtney, is for those listening, is sometimes we get so wrapped up in our day-to-day life and who we are and how we show up to ourselves and our own busyness and go to work, take care of the kids, do the thing. I find that your husband had this other life, and he was helping people way beyond what anyone could imagine. And it wasn't for the attention. It wasn't for a cape and to be a superhero in some big fancy movie. It was just him being him. And that was his normal persona. That's who he was. And it didn't matter if he got praise. But the results come back to the family in the future. And I think that would give him pause to celebrate, knowing that as I do kind things for people, it will come back in some way, possibly. And if it comes back and benefits my family, even better.
It costs.
Yeah, I might not get the personal benefit, but they might.
Costs absolutely,
right? I love that. That's
absolutely
nice.
nothing to be a good human being. Costs absolutely nothing. Just to be kind to someone. And that was my Jeremy.
Wow. There you go. Think he'd be proud of the
Oh,
book?
yeah. Absolutely. Not only would he be proud about
Would he be
it,
surprised?
he would be the person that would be heading up the marketing of the book, and he would take it to his workplace and hand it out to all his coworkers. That would be my spouse. He was always my biggest cheerleader.
Courtney, I could talk to you all day about this because I want to celebrate him, and I want to celebrate the fact that you were able to write these stories and these letters out for us to enjoy and to guide us as readers. I do want to close off with a kind of a closing thought question from your perspective, but like we mentioned, we want people to reach out to you. We want people to connect with you and give you feedback that maybe you haven't had the volume of feedback that I would love to see for you to get. So for the people listening and they've had a journey like this and they would love to reach out to you, where do you want to send them? And so they can connect with you. And then let's wrap up a little bit.
Eventually, my website will be up, but it's not up now. But eventually that will be CourtneyHennis.com. It's not there yet, but it will be. I promise.
Okay.
But until then, I've created a Facebook page called Creating Life Simple. And that is my Facebook handle because being a widow, being a single mom, you learn to do nothing more than create life simple. Life can be just so complex and we don't need to make it more complex. Let's not make it crazy. Just needs to be simple. Mm-hmm. Just find the things that make things work simply. So I'm about the simple.
Love it. We'll have the links to that, Courtney, in the notes. And I want to do like you've already given us so much already, but I just kind of want to turn the podcast over to you, Courtney, in the end here. Kind of final thoughts, wrap up. Again, for that reader that's going to have your book in their lap, they're going to open this up for the first time. They're going to start reading these words. Just kind of your closing thoughts for that reader with them in mind. How do you want to wrap up our conversation?
If you know a widow that's struggling, just go sit with them. That's all you have to do. Just sit. You don't have to say, how are you? You don't have to say, how was your day? You don't have to do any of that. Sometimes just sit there and hold their hand and just sit. If you're a widow, I'm 4 years post-death. Is it hard? Absolutely. Every day is difficult. But there is another side. and eventually you'll find it. And it's not easy to find, but you will find it. You will wake up one day and the glooming reality that you have to do this life without your spouse won't be there. That's all I would have to say.
Courtney, thank you for sharing a very personal letter from your husband to you with us. Thank you for sharing your words with us through your book. I just think it's a beautiful thing to hear how you can take something like this and then turn it into a way to help people in the same way. So thank you for doing this and being faithful to doing this, even though there's probably been times where you're like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah. Writing this story was an emotionally grueling circumstance, and that's why it took me 4 years to write. Right?
And it's here now. It's here. Right. Thank you for sharing your words.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Everyone, all the information for Courtney, the books, everything are going to be in the show notes, links to the websites as well. And my encouragement for everyone, leave a great review when you buy the book so other people will see the words and be motivated to also support Courtney. As you listen to this, you may need this book, or you may also know somebody else who needs this book. So buy an extra copy and send it to them as well, so they have it as well. Courtney, thank you so much for being here. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.